Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Learn Just with Mahesh. Today we'll see 7 bugs in the new BigQuery Editor, which can possibly impact your productivity. I remember that I myself did a video on the new features of BigQuery Editor, but now the system is slowly becoming stable, but I see more bugs basically, so which can basically impact the productivity. So let me show you those 7 bugs, and do let me know which one is going to really impact your productivity. So let's get started. All right, we are in a BigQuery console. So if you come to BigQuery console for the first time, you will get a message something like this. So welcome to BigQuery. So new to BigQuery UI. So it's going to show all those things. By default, you get these two modes: disable editor tab, where you are going to have multiple tab option, which is the coolest feature, I would say. Even in my previous video on this tabbed option, I had shown this is the coolest feature. Now if you have some bugs, if you feel something is missing, you have the option of opting it out. While opting it out, you can also give a feedback. So I'm going to give this feedback basically so that the engineering team can basically try to fix it. But I wanted to highlight the bugs to you people, so that you are aware that you are not doing something wrong. It is something to do with the user interface. So you can opt it out, basically something like this. So where you go back to the previous little stable user interface, which is not tabbed. So it is not going to be tabbed. So that is something which we are going to do here. So let me just remove this. So that's what we are going to do. So I'm going to show from the beginning the bugs which I really see can impact somebody's productivity. So for the first one, I'm going to switch it back to the new tab based stuff, and I'm also going to have a flow, something like a journey of a data engineer, a journey of a BigQuery person who wants to analyze certain stuff. How will he start? So he's going to start usually with basically exploring a public data set. So for example, I'm just going to take this table, bike share stuff. So let me just query this. Now I'm going to put some column names like station ID. Now done, right? It's going to show me the results, all those things. This is awesome. Now what is a bug in this basically is previously in the other version, the stable version. So I'm going to call this as something like not a stable version. The other one which we see non-tabbed one, we'll call it as a stable version. So if I use the control keyboard, I'm pressing my control keyboard, nothing is happening. But if the same thing, if I copy this query, switch back to my disabled the disable the editor tab disable editor tab option, go to that option, and if I copy the same query, the moment I press control keyboard, so I'm just going to disable this. Now I'm pressing control keyboard, or if you're using a Mac machine, if you're pressing basically the CMD key, it's going to highlight it. Now what's a big deal in this? Now I can just click on this. Say for example, if I click on it, it's going to show me basically the schema, details, preview. Now, whenever I'm going to explore whenever I see something in my BigQuery documentation and there's a public data set available, I'm going to literally copy it. At that time, I may not know what is the schema structure. So for that, if I just use this control and use my keyboard, my mouse, it's going to show me that details. For example, if I just do this one, I just change this bike share basically to trips. Now I just click on this, you see it's going to show me the preview, the schema, all those things. So that is going to help me out basically to mention the right column names. So this definitely is going to impact somebody's productivity, because they have to basically copy this. Then if I go back to the other UI user interface, so I have to copy this text and then search it, then look for the schema details of it. For example, something like this. So this is what I will do. So then what is this thing, then I will show. So it's basically reducing our productivity. Basically that's the first bug which I wanted to show. Now, good. So let me basically go into, say for example, the same table. I'll just query this station ID. So again, related to the keyboard shortcut. So let me just format it. So, and where station or the start name is equal to something, ABC, something. So I don't know whether such a station exists, but this is something which I want to do. Let me do this formatting one more time so it looks good. Now, say for example, if I wanted to not have station ID, so there's a concept called as multi-cursor, which is usually available in IDEs and editors. So you can do the same thing. So if you hold Ctrl Alt, you will be able to basically change the columns in one go. So multi-cursor option. So that is lost in this. So I'm not able to do this. I'm going to copy the same query, switch to our stable version, and if I use the same thing, it's going to work. So this multi-cursor is missing, which was a cool feature. So it's easy for us to edit the stuffs. So if I just paste this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my cursor here. I have start station name. I want to change it to something else. Start date is what I wanted to do. So I'm going to use Control Alt. So you see this, I can basically go and now you see two cursors. Now I start this start changing this start date. So something of this sort is possible. So when you are using multi-cursor, which is missing there, so you just mention the right date field, or I can mention is null. Then the query is going to be valid. So this is again missing. So first one, control. Second one, multi-cursor is missing. So let's go back to the next one. So switch back to the normal. So as a new explorer, basically when you're exploring BigQuery, you will start always with BigQuery with the public data set. So in the public data set, basically if you want to know the schema, multi-cursor option, that is missing in this interface. The next part which you will do, definitely you will create your own project and you will try to create a data set, right? Creating a data set is the most important thing. So if I create a data set and start mentioning the data set name. So something like LGWM. So learn just with Mahesh. So that's a data set. Now, one of the most important thing in the data set creation is a location. Now, if you see, there's no default location option. So everybody knows the default location is basically US, but that option is not highlighted explicitly, which can basically little create confusion. And they have also not mentioned the location is mandatory. Um, so meaning it is going to by default take as US. Now, if I create this, you will see the data set is created. And if I open my data set, it is going to show as US, but they could have done something specifically for that, which again, because you miss it out, it's not a mandatory field. When you're in a learning mode, it's not a mandatory field. You always create everything in US, multi-region US option. So, and the thing is that you may say that, yes, this is maybe a cool feature, but thing is that the consistency is not there. So where this consistency is not there, when you're creating the data set, um, there's no default option. But when you create, say for example, I create a table, I just create a temporary table, empty. That's it. I create one column, user. Just create this. Okay, I will basically, yeah, create this. Okay, this is another bug which I'll come to that. Okay, I created it. Now, if I go to my query, I sorry, if I go to my query, there's one option which is missing here. 1 minute. Open. So this is another bug which I will show you later. So I have to refresh this. Only then I can open the table one more time. So I'll come back to this, the another bug which I have seen. So Let me just open. So I open this. If I'm going to query this basically, I get this option of more, right? When I click on this option, query setting, you will see the location. Now, why the location is mentioned here? So if it is not there, even it should not be mentioned here. So that inconsistency is there. So basically, I would easily treat this as a bug, which can basically confuse people. So that's a third bug which I wanted to show, where the default location is not explicitly mentioned. But if I switch back to my uh, the stable version, the moment I create the data set, you would see there is an option for mentioning this thing. So if I create my data set, you see this very nicely mentioned default. It's optional, but they have mentioned that it is default. So the moment you see that, you may think of doing changes to it. So that's the third bug which I wanted to highlight it. Now you created a data set. Let me switch back. The fourth bug which I wanted to highlight. So you have basically created the data set. What next you are going to do? You are going to load some data. So let me try to load some data. So I'm in this data, this thing. So I'm going to create, I'm just going to close all these things. Create a table. So I have some CSV file, which I'm going to load it. So let me select basically that option. Okay, I have opened it. So I'm just going to open this CSV file. All good. So I'm going to mention it as employees. And I'm going to just use auto detect for just for the demonstration purpose. That's it. I'm going to click on create. So now when I click on create, or maybe I can give instead of auto detect, let me give the column names. First name, department ID, then joining date. Joining date. So these are stuffs. So this is a bonus bug which I wanted to show. It does not show you very nicely the description and all. So, but this is which we can ignore this part of the bug. So that's fine. So I'm going to load this data. So what would you expect when everything is proper? When I click on create a table, it should basically show the data is loaded. Now it shows some failed message. Then it shows basically it is loaded. The another message which I get, because I did not skip my header, so let me just skip my header. So let me again load it. So let me again create it. So this is our fourth bug which we wanted to see. So click on create table. It shows something unexpected error. Then it shows loaded. Now table created. Everything shows, but this window has to close, right? The window does not close. Now you have no other option either to click on cancel or close this button. So which is little odd. You have to do an extra click basically. You may suggest you can go with a command line option. That's fine. But when you are in a learning mode, you will always use the UI, right? So this is again going to basically bring down your productivity. So, but if you see the table is all created fine, folks. The table is created fine. So 9 rows, data is there, all things. So this is the problem. So this is the fourth bug which I wanted to show. Now, if I switch back to the normal mode or the stable mode, I will not get this kind of issues. So let me just create this. So I will basically I'll basically create the table one more time. So upload EMP employee. I'm just going to make it as auto detect. That's it. Let me click on create. The moment I click on create, right, uh, it is going to get provision. The resource is going to get provision and the window gets closed. which is what is the expected one. You see this. So this is a beautiful option. So clicking extra buttons, bring down our productivity basically. So, and it sometimes irritates basically. So going back to the unstable UI part. So just wanted to show you the next part. Now I loaded the data. I wanted to basically do a repeat, something very similar data. So I wanted to do a repeat of it. So what smart people will do, basically they go to the job history or the personal history in the new interface. So this is the job history, right? So I would basically click on repeat the load. So when I do this, yes, I had used upload. Now if I select basically the option, maybe some other this thing or the same file, I'm going to call the table as 2. Now if you remember, we had done basically, okay, not this one, my bad. This was the one which we ran it with the stable version. So this was the one which we ran with our unstable version. So if I basically repeat it, so upload this file. So second one. Now, if you remember, we had put all the schema details. Some username, department ID, joining date. That is not retained. So I have to again mention everything. So which is, and also, okay, this piece is captured, but the schema details are not captured. This is again a bug. So if I switch back basically to my stable version, and if I go to my job history, because this is a load, so it's going to be under job history. So if you use the last one, employee, now if I try to repeat the same thing, you see this, folks, everything is going to be retained. So which is basically missing or a bug in the new interface. So let's move on to the next part. So we loaded everything done. So we want to explore the data, right? So what we'll do, we'll open the table. Now, even in this, there is going to be an issue. Let me just show you that. So if I open this table, it opens up. Uh, if I close this and again try to open it, I'm clicking, folks. It is not working. Open, not working. Query, not query opens up. So if I open again, it does not. So which is again this thing. So if I want to open the schema, I have no other options, folks, but I have to refresh the screen. So this is one thing which really impacts when you're doing some kind of training. Now it opens up. So after I this thing, so I'm using the latest browser, so I'm not sure what is the issue here. So I have to basically refresh the screen. So this is the next bug, and because there is no tab version in the stable version, if I just go back, the moment you open any table, it's going to basically show you the details of it. So if I go back to the stable, sorry, go back to the stable version of it. So it's not switching, 1 minute, opt out. So where there's only going to be one tab. So now if I basically, if I open this, it opens up employees, empty. So again, EMP, it works basically, but in the new interface, it does not work basically. So this is the another bug. So you cannot basically, if you were to open up the window again, you open a table, close the table, and again, if you want to open it, you have to refresh it. You have no other option basically. Uh, this is another bug which I want to share. The next bug which I wanted to share is basically if you're trying to do something with legacy versus standard dialect, people use basically a extra subscription or extra information, right? So you can use something like this. So let me just query this. Employees. So now if I again want to open employees, it will not open. So that's the previous bug. So uh, joining a department ID. This is the query which I'm going to run. Now this is basically in a standard dialect mode. If I want to basically run it in legacy, I have some requirement to run it in legacy mode. I put this. Now, now if I do this, now it's going to be basically a legacy mode. Perfect, right? Now, if I click on basically the query setting, there is an option called as legacy. It does not get selected, which is really not a major bug, but it should have got selected. So is what it indicates. If I run the query, right, after running the query, and now if I go and click on query setting, you will see that button is enabled, which is little funny. So meaning jar or the element read or the element or the input element is not retained. When it comes back, hits the server and gets the response, it is then shown. So basically a UI bug. So if I just change this to now standard SQL and change this. Now this goes for a longer time validation. Now let me run this. Now it is basically a standard mode. Now if I basically go and look into it, it is going to be unchecked. So but when we put that legacy SQL dialect, it should basically get this should be checked, and it does not show the another checkbox standard. It does not show that option, which is missing. So if I switch back basically to my stable version, so before I switch back, I just copy this query, uh, switch back, you would be able to see this option works very well there. So the moment I put something, it's going to show me the option. So before I do any changes, click on the query settings. You should see standard dialect, right? The moment I go and change this, I have made it a standard. Now, if I go and look into it, you will see it is disabled because it is controlled by my query. The prefix, or what is the term, I forgot to mention. What is the term? I don't recollect that. But using this shortcut, if I mention it, I cannot do any change in this because it is going to be overridden by here. Now, similarly, if I basically change it to legacy, now if I go look into it, it's going to be again perfectly set, which is not getting set in the new interface basically. So those are the 7 bugs which I was able to find, and it was basically impacting one of my productivity. Basically, the control sh shortcut, control alt shortcut, that was basically impacting. And whenever I used to load the data using the new interface, and the window was not closing. So those were 3 bugs basically which was impacting my productivity. Do let me know what's the bug which impacts you the most, or these were totally new bugs which you figure it out. Do let me know in the comment section. Thank you for watching.